You kind of touched on this a little bit. I want to listen. This is a long one. You have to pay attention. Okay, that's right. So, all right.
If you could send it to my iPhone, then I could.
You can read it. You actually could get it on your iPhone. It's on Google Docs. Can you give an example when your community, so the Well and Resonate, was faced with a ministry opportunity or a negative ministry issue, so something good or something bad, and it couldn't be readily fit into the way you were already structured? And if so, how did your community flex to deal with that new reality?
We're in that right now. We just had our children's ministry, child care director hours cut. And so dealing with the majority of people within our faith community are under 35, which includes young families. And so we have a problem on our hands. And so we haven't figured that out. We're still in the mix of that as of even last week. This week, we're figuring that out. And so we sort of have this wiki church idea. You know, the idea of Wikipedia is that we all have a role in terms of creating definitions, and if there are those that are vandalizing, vandals that vandalize those definitions, it is our role to go in and recorrect those to the truth. That's what the church is, Wiki Church. That's what we should be. Wouldn't that be awesome, like Wikipedia Community Church? That'd be a sweet name for a church. I've been kind of fleshing that out. But the idea is to say, okay, guys, we have a problem on our hands.
It's better than Resonate.
I guess my brain's going.
I basically said
Tiki Church at that point. That's
or if it was the Wikipedia Community Church, then it wouldn't work. I'm sorry. I'm just here for comic relief.
But ecclesiology? Never mind. Go ahead. Finish.
But with the child care issue, I had to go to our people just within the past month and say, we have an issue. And guess what? It's every one of us. This is our issue. Whether you have kids or not, this is our issue, this is your issue. And together we will figure it out, because together it is our problem. That sort of jolted people a little bit to say, well, I'm 24, I'm single, I'm not even looking to get married, let alone have kids. It is your problem too. And we will figure this out together as a family. And so we're still figuring that out. Fortunately, we have people this weekend covering, but we've had people step up and say, I will do this. I will be a part of organizing this. This is our issue together, and I'm in.
So you basically looked at the congregation and said,
yeah,
that's not my life situation, isn't acceptable.
Exactly.
This is our problem.
And we've even said, if you are upset because childcare was cut, you can't blame anyone but you. And I'm trying to manipulate anybody. I'm just simply saying nobody can point a finger any other direction until it starts with us. So we're figuring that out. We'll let you know in the next couple of weeks how that goes. So we're flexing right now.
They're on the edge of their seats. What's going to happen at Resident?
It's like an updated soap opera. Take the video camera to church on Sunday. We'll watch it on YouTube. It'll be great. So Wiki YouTube Church. It's
something like that.
Reality show.
I'm trying to think of a situation where we didn't know what to do or we couldn't respond. Because
you're all brilliant? Is that what you're trying to imply? We're experts. We know exactly what we're doing.
Well, you already did it. I mean, you demonstrated how. I'm answering the question for. I'm a bad interviewer.
Tell me when I did it.
Joining the denomination.
Oh yeah,
that's a great example.
Like we have a very almost too organic structure. Sometimes we err on the side of chaos more than the side of too rigid. But it really is a similar way. Like, listen, here's the situation. Let's talk about it. It's not perfect. It's messy. And it's kind of hairy. But that's kind of how we deal with. We try to have a loose enough structure where we can bend and we can move with stuff. Early on in our history, the metaphor we probably used without realizing it was amoeba. If you guys know what an amoeba is,
pseudopod.
It's it doesn't really have any form whatsoever, and it just kind of goes wherever, and just it goes over here and then goes over here. Well, that was kind of how we existed for a little bit. Not so helpful, totally. What was helpful for us is to kind of put some kind of skeleton or framework around the amoeba so it can flex and we can move, but there's a framework.
Okay, so you're like the T-1000 in Terminator 2.
Something like that. Oh, you mean the one where it blows up and it comes back together again?
Yeah. Okay.
Sure. Although I feel like, well, never mind.
This is going to be on YouTube. Most of the people are going to understand that.
All 5 people who watch it are going to be like, oh, yeah. I didn't know what a Terminator was. What a dork. But when JR puts it on his blog, though, like 3,000 people will read it. So,
that'd be great.
anyways. So we've been in a continual process of trying to find the framework for our flexible. So trying to be too structured, but we talk about either a master plan, which is kind of like this is how it's going to be, or some kind of order that allows us to flex and bend in the midst of a framework.
Yeah, the metaphor we often use is God. We know that God certainly has some, like if it is a skeletal structure of a human body, there are certain things that shouldn't bend or break, right? I mean, sort of our structure. Yet at the same time, we say, God, by your Spirit, you've got to put skin around us. And that skin is that flexible part that allows us to move. And then you need to do another thing and put life and breath and blood running through our veins to give us life. And so we certainly know what that rigid structure is, surrounded by the working of the Spirit in terms of our skin being flexible, but we also have to have blood flowing through, and that's life that only the Spirit can give, and that doesn't come from any structure that Todd and I could ever do or any other pastor. That's God's Spirit doing His work in ways we can't.
Yeah, and I think some good language that's helped me is this idea of we can either be prescriptive or descriptive. We can prescribe how things should happen and how it should work, or we can describe how it should happen and figure out what it's going to be like from there. So, this is a simple example. So, in Acts 2, it says they had fellowship, right? We can say everyone needs to be in a small group. Here are 14 small groups you can choose from. Join one, or else you don't belong here. Or we can say you need to be in community. You need to have relationships where you are held accountable and where you are growing in your faith, and that they're your lifeblood. You need to be in that. Let us help you figure out how that looks, even if it's not one of our smaller groups that we do offer. So, as someone in our church, there's a number of people in our church who aren't part of our small groups, but they're in those relationships, and there are a number that aren't. And we need to say again and again, you need that relationship. But I don't want to prescribe how it has to look for them. I want to describe what they should be doing, and teach them how to figure it out, if that makes sense. So in leadership, it's a similar thing.
So you flex that way. That's cool.
So
that was good. You paid attention.
I did, didn't I?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The end.
I haven't seen Todd in a while. It's kind of fun to chat.
You want to just?
We're just chatting.
How you doing?
How you doing, man?
Okay.